What's up, everybody? My name's Big Cam and welcome back to another Comically Boston Monday morning podcast where we talk about everything that happened last week in nerddom, and we will discuss this week's weekly nerdy news. And there's some big Avengers Doomsday news, maybe like a new poster showing some characters all together that we've never seen together before, on a new Doomsday poster that was maybe on like a flag or like a banner of some sort at Destination D23 or Destination 23, you know, the D23 Expo type thing that Disney hosts every year for, I believe, shareholders and stuff like that. And it's real private, but they show like exclusive things that are coming up this year and stuff that's not necessarily released to the public like us. But I do have the image of Avengers Doomsday, but we'll talk about that at the end of today's episode if you guys don't want to hear spoilers for that. But we do have a whole bunch of, you know, Rotten Tomato scores and new movie posters and stuff to talk about, and castings and stuff beginning production and first images. So let's jump right on into it, shall we? And first thing we're going to talk about today is Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which I am very excited for, and I can't wait to see. And it is currently at the Venice Film Festival, I believe, and it just got like a 13-minute standing ovation, which I think is the longest of the year so far. And it debuted with an 83% Rotten Tomato score with 12 reviews. I'm sure that score will change, but I believe that's just a really early Rotten Tomato score after this film festival. But speaking of Netflix films and stuff that's being made kind of by Netflix with the Frankenstein movie, and this other, you know, kind of horror adjacent movie from Netflix is called Monster, the Ed Gein story, starring Charlie Hunnam as Ed Gein, I believe. And this is like, you know, before Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there was Ed, you know, so I don't know what Ed Gein is or who Ed Gein is, but he seems like he's a real Jeffrey Dahmer psychopath type. And Charlie Hunnam's, you know, taking a stab, if you would, at a psychopath. And that's coming to Netflix October 3rd. Another thing coming out in October, we got our boy from The Bear, Jeremy Allen White. He's going to be playing Bruce Springsteen in the Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere movie, which I guess is just another one of these biopics about famous musicians, whether it's now been Bohemian Rhapsody about Queen, Elvis about, you know, Elvis with Austin Butler, Complete Unknown with Timothée Chalamet about Bob Dylan, and now a Bruce Springsteen one. I don't know if I'm gonna go see that in theaters or not. I'm not the biggest Springsteen fan, you know, I'm more of a fan of Bob Dylan and even Elvis or even like the Queen than I am Springsteen. You know, I definitely know their music more, but you know, I'll probably end up checking that out if reviews or something are good, or you know, if people are raving about it. But something that I am looking forward more to seeing that seems much more up my alley, this like rated R crime drama buddy cop type thing. It seems like it might be funny. It seems like there's probably some robbery elements to it, like it's like a heist or something. And this movie is called Play Dirty with Mark Wahlberg and Lakeith Stanfield, and I really like Mark. He's a Boston boy, of course, so I've watched Mark Wahlberg movies my whole life, it feels like. But Lakeith Stanfield is one of these actors that has been coming up over the last few years that anything he's been in, I've absolutely loved him, and he crushes it. So him and Mark Wahlberg side by side, starring in this rated R movie coming to Amazon Prime, a new Amazon original movie coming October 1st. Seems like this whole news cycle is a lot of stuff coming out in October. And then there's a few things we're teasing coming out next year and in the future. But most of the stuff we're talking about seems like coming up in October or like, you know, very soon. Like this next film, we have talked about a little bit on the channel, but this is a new Dolby Cinemas poster for the movie titled The Long Walk, which is, I believe is a Stephen King book that they adapted. And seems like a very interesting, you know, weird but horror type movie, you know, rated R. Mark Hamill's, you know, Luke Skywalker is like the villain of the movie, and he's like making these guys walk, and the person that walks the longest gets like a reward or something. I don't know, but it seems really messed up, you know, like you stop walking or you stop keeping pace and they just kill you, you know. It's like Squid Game if it was a walk. Like what? I don't know if I'm gonna be into that. Who do you root for in this type of movie? Comment below though if that's something you're gonna go see coming to theaters September 12th. So just, you know, less than 2 weeks out for that movie. Now, a movie that I was hearing a bunch about, and I want to say that this movie got delayed. It might have been pushed up, but I'm not sure what the original release date was for Mortal Kombat 2, but its new release date is May 15th, 2026. This film will be coming to theaters with Johnny Cage being played by Butcher from The Boys. What is his real name? Carl Urban. Another movie that, you know, I've watched a couple of this director's things, you know, and a couple years ago his movie Poor Things with Emma Stone was actually interesting, but also really weird and trippy. And then his most recent thing that he came out afterwards with Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone, he just seems like this really weird director. Right? And he's just into weird shit. And I don't even know how to pronounce this one. Bugonia? Bugonia? I don't know. Bologna? Like, when I first read it, I was like, what is this? Bologna? You know, like, and I thought it was like bologna covering her face in this poster. But I'm not sure what that is. Blood and then yellow honey over the... going over? I don't know. But Jesse Plemons, Emma Stone, back starring in yet another Yorgos Lanthimos film, and you know, it seems like they're big collaborators alongside this guy. This film is just under 2 hours with an hour and 58-minute runtime. It's coming to theaters Friday, October 24th, and it is a mystery thriller, which is very interesting. It's currently sitting at 100% Rotten Tomatoes score, critic score that is, with only 12 reviews, and I believe this also just got, you know, premiered at the Venice Film Festival or something like that. And like, he's a type of director, like, I'll watch his stuff if the trailer like gets me into it, but most of his stuff seems really weird, and unless that gets like rave reviews and people really are talking about it, I doubt I will see that. But Poor Things was pretty good. I will give him Poor Things, but his last movie after that wasn't that great. Now, a movie that I wanted to go see over the last weekend, but I didn't get a chance to get out of the house, but maybe I will this week at some point, and that movie is Darren Aronofsky's newest film, Caught Stealing. It says 2 Russians, 2 Jews, and a Puerto Rican walk into a bar. And then there's the cat, there's Matt Smith with the giant mohawk, but really the stars of the movie, I believe, is Austin Butler, Zoe Kravitz, but you also have Matt Smith, Liev Schreiber, Vincent D'Onofrio, Benito Martinez Ocasio, or Bad Frickin' Bunny. You know, Regina King is in there, I believe, as well. Just a very interesting trailer, and from the trailer alone, I wanted to see this film, so I'm going to go see it. But its debuted Rotten Tomatoes score was sitting at 86% with 49 critic reviews, so I'm very curious to see what maybe the audience score is now, but I don't want to look at those reviews until I see it myself, and then I'll check it out. But stay tuned for a Caught Stealing movie review that will be coming out inevitably on the channel. Hopefully I get to go see that soon, but if I don't get to go see it soon and I have to wait for it to come out on like digital or something, I will be renting it and feasting my eyes on that movie as soon as possible. Some nice news for the Ice Age fans out there, with Ice Age 6 is now titled Ice Age Boiling Point, which is interesting, and the water has now come to a boiling point, so a little bit more than a meltdown like Ice Age 2, you know, now it's, you know, continental drift, and so they've done 5 movies. Now they're at the point where this is now the 6th movie, Boiling Point, that will be coming to theaters February 5th, 2027, 2 days after my 28th birthday. And I'm pretty sure Ice Age 1 came out maybe a year after I was born. So, you know, like in 27 years, they came out with 6 of these movies. Wow. Last week we were talking about that there is multiple different Frankenstein movies all in the work right now, and one of them we talked about was Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride, starring, I believe, Christian Bale as Frankenstein himself, but he's got like tattoos, he's got the classic staple of the forehead going across his forehead. But Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride has been rated R for strong, bloody, violent content, sexual content, nudity, and language, so ooh, gonna be a sexy little movie. And it says it's starring Jessie Buckley, Christian Bale, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Penelope Cruz. So I don't know who Jessie Buckley is from that group, but the remaining actors in that, Gyllenhaal, obviously Maggie Gyllenhaal's brother, Christian Bale and Maggie were you know, Rachel and Bruce Wayne in The Dark Knight. Penelope Cruz, gorgeous as hell, so I'm wondering if maybe Penelope Cruz is the bride, or maybe Jessie Buckley is, but you know, whoever the bride is going to be the star of the show, and they're going to be across from Christian Bale's friggin' Frankenstein, and then that maybe means that Jake Gyllenhaal is Dr. Frankenstein. I wouldn't be mad at that at all. You know, I'm very interested to see Guillermo del Toro's take on this as well, with Oscar Isaac as Dr. Frankenstein and Jacob Elordi as the monster. But, I don't know. Frankenstein fans out there, are you excited for multiple different Frankenstein takes coming your way? Another movie that seems quite interesting is a movie called Here Comes the Flood that I have a synopsis for, that is going to be starring Denzel Washington, Robert Pattinson, and Daisy Edgar Jones. And the synopsis reads, an elevated character-driven love story heist movie. I'm already in. If you guys know me, it said love story, I'm in. And it said heist, so like, you know, two of my favorite things, robbery, heist movies, and love stories. Phenomenal. With the heist playing out in increments, the thriller sees an Iraqi war vet landing a job at a bank. An international thief approaches him to help strategize and enact a heist in the bank. However, the veteran is in love with one of the bank employees, and they plan to manufacture a double cross that will see them getting away with the money and leave the thief to take the blame. Ooh. So I'm guessing that the Iraqi war vet maybe is Pattinson, and he's in love with Daisy Edgar Jones, and then the thief that they're going to try and take the blame is Denzel Washington, which, you know, that like leaving Denzel in the dust to take the blame is just going to end up with like some Training Day type shit, like fucking King Kong ain't got shit on me, you know, like, and Denzel is just the best. So I can only picture him being so aggressive in this, although I don't know if his action will be all that crazy because he seems like an older guy now, so like, you know, I don't know if he'll be doing crazy stunts, you know, but I don't know if a heist movie needs crazy stunts, you know, maybe it just needs a really, really good script and some good, like, camera motion, you know, and, like, twists, you know, like, heist movies don't necessarily need great action, they need great twists, where all of a sudden, you know, you're like, oh, I didn't see that coming, you know, and then they unfold how everything happened at the end. Like, that's what makes a good heist movie. But Robert Pattinson, Daisy Edgar Jones, and Denzel Washington, I think I'm going to be here for Here Comes the Flood when that comes out eventually, but production is set to begin September 22nd. Very interesting. Can't wait to hear more about that one. Speaking of Pattinson, the girlies out there, which I am happy to report that my audience recently has been 25% women, which is shocking to me because I'm talking about action figures and Marvel and movies and nerdy shit, but a quarter of you are women out there. So that means 1 out of every 4 of my viewers are women. So ladies, what the fuck is up? How are you? You know, it's so good to see you. But Forever begins again, and the Twilight Saga is coming back to theaters. Robert Pattinson coming back as Mr. Edward Cullen, and the Twilight Saga comes back to theaters in October, probably for Halloween time. Maybe it's like an anniversary of some sorts. I'm thinking maybe 15 years or something like that, 10 years since the first one. When did the first one come out? I'm not sure. 14, I want to say. Maybe even before that, though. But Twilight, I mean, I was a fan when I was younger because my mother and sister, vampires, werewolves, I was here for it. Not the best movies, but like I was here for them, honestly. Speaking of something I am definitely here for, and that is Gen V Season 2. Gen V Season 1 was a little crazy, but so is The Boys, and this universe of The Boys on Amazon is quite crazy, and they're continuing it with more of a college, you know, audience, you know, like younger kids being the soups instead of full-grown Justice League type adults that are super bad, like Homelander. I don't remember these girls' names, like I'm gonna have to do a rewatch of Season 1, but I did watch Season 1, and that girl right there is very powerful. Don't want to mess with her. But we're getting exclusive entertainment fall TV preview. We got a couple other images here with the other kids. I believe that same girl in the middle there. On the left, that dude with the kind of John Wick-esque hair. That character's powers, they could switch back and forth between guy and girl, you know. Or I'm not sure, maybe they can make multiples, or maybe it's just like they can transfigure themselves from male to female type shit. Sometimes he's male, sometimes he's female. Whenever it suits him, he wants to go back and forth, he can. Or she can. They can. And then I'm pretty sure the girl on the right is the shrinking girl that has to like throw up to get small. There's that same girl, they, them, that I was just talking about. In the girl version of that character is giving a speech, it seems like, at Godolkin with like the headmaster in the background. He seems like he's going to be a problem this season from like the trailer I seen. And then there was this kid, and he was like locked up because he's like super powerful and like killing people, but the shrinking girl and him had like a bit of a romance going on for a second, and like a love story that I kind of wanted to see happen. But it seems like he's talking to the Deep, and this is like the back of the Deep we see, and the Deep is like the boys Aquaman, and he's awful, but you know, what's going on with the boys and the Gen V cast, you know, coming together for season 2. Very interesting. But moving on to some DC stuff, we do have the official list of DC's highest grossing movies of all time, and I couldn't believe that Aquaman was #1 with $1.152 billion. The Dark Knight Rises, $1.115 billion. 1.079 billion for Joker, and that's the top 3. Joker, Dark Knight Rises, and Aquaman. And then The Dark Knight, which I feel like is 100% the best of the Dark Knight trilogy, with 1.09 billion, so just over $1 billion for that film. And I feel like that film was so good that The Dark Knight Rises made that much money, but I don't think The Dark Knight Rises deserves to make that much money. You know, like that much money for the second highest DC movie of all time is not the best. You know, like Aquaman is certainly not the best DC movie of all time. This is just how much money they made. You know, like this certainly isn't the list of how good they are, you know, because as far as I'm concerned, The Batman coming in at 7th place with $772 million, he's definitely closer to the top than any of the other movies. Maybe The Dark Knight's the only other one that I'm like, yeah, that deserves to be up there. Joker 1 was pretty great too. But like Batman v Superman at #5, $874 million, that movie's not good at all, really. You know, but I mean, it's moody, but it's not really great. But you put Batman and Superman on screen together, of course it made over $800 million. I think more impressive than that is that Wonder Woman, her solo first film, made $824 million, you know, and I think mostly for her score, that friggin' you know, like, she's got a 6 score as well. I want to say that's maybe Hans Zimmer as well. The Batman we just said coming in at 7. The Suicide Squad, $749 million. Very interesting. I believe that made that much money mostly because of that, I want to say, what's the band? 21 Pilots. That like soundtrack to the original Suicide Squad movie was better than the movie, right? Like, but the score in the movie was so good that like you could watch that movie and enjoy it over and over again. Now, the cast was great, but the actual movie itself's not that great, but the cast and like the score is phenomenal. And I mean, the Suicide Squad, I will always love El Diablo. I mean, I do have a soft spot for Will Smith's Deadshot, but like, I'm not really here for Will Smith. I'm here for the character Deadshot, you know what I mean? But more than anybody in that movie, friggin' El Diablo was my favorite character for sure. Man of Steel comes in at 9, $670 million. Justice League, $661 million. And surprisingly, James Gunn's Superman comes in at 11th. Hasn't even cracked the top 10 with $606 million, which is a profitable movie and still made a great amount of money. But, you know, I don't know if we'll ever get back to a world where 2019's Joker makes $1 billion just because it's like coming out after, you know, Endgame and stuff like that. You know, like, same thing with Aquaman. Like, Aquaman wasn't that great, but it made $1 billion because Jason Momoa looked really fucking cool and changed this character of like this barnacle boy-esque, you know, mermaid man, and, you know, made him like this tattooed biker looking, you know, beer drinking, Guinness drinking, long hair, attitude having Samoan Aquaman. You know, now Aquaman's cool, but like, you know, I don't ever remember Arthur Curry being cool from the animated cartoons. You know, he was always kind of like a Triple H asshole type in the cartoons. And then like in the comics, he looked like a barnacle boy-esque like motherfucker. Aquaman did deserve to be cool, but did it deserve to be the highest grossing DC movie of all time? No, that is crazy. You know, it's also crazy to me that like none of the original, you know, Michael Keaton Batman. Granted, if inflation, you know, like they would have to adjust how much money they made for now anyways. But like, you know, tickets cost less money back then. Movie theaters, there were less of back then. There wasn't the, you know, you go to the theaters and then a month later, it's, you know, not even. Superman made $606 million. It was only in theaters for less than 40 days or something like that, 45 days. That's crazy for DC to have that big a movie and then be like, let's take it out of theaters. I mean, I think it's still there in theaters, but who's going to see that when you can pay the same price as a movie theater ticket to watch it at home? You know, so and people's home setups are now good enough that watching this movie at home is beautiful. You know, and I certainly saw it in theaters 3 times and then went home and watched it on digital, and I absolutely loved it all over again. You know, and just watched it a bunch of times now because I can watch it in the comfort of my own home at whatever pace I want to watch it at, you know? Like, it didn't get the luxury of Batman v Superman or any of these other films that were probably in theaters for multiple months, not just days, months, you know? Like, one of these movies, I think maybe Batman v Superman or Man of Steel, was in there for 3 months, and they're like, oh, James Gunn's Superman's worse than Snyder's Justice League and Snyder's Superman movies. And it's like, but they're not getting the same fight, you know what I mean? Like, and it's also not, you know, like I was saying, it's not 2018, 2019, where Infinity War and Endgame had everything making $1 billion. Didn't Captain Marvel make $1 billion? Like, that movie, it doesn't deserve to be up there with Aquaman and the rest of these movies that made $1 billion. But it was just the time that they came out, I think, was so prevalent. Like, you can't really say that for 2012's Dark Knight Rises, but, you know, you can say that the Joker did so well in The Dark Knight that that's why The Dark Knight Rises makes so much money. You know, like, but The Dark Knight in The Dark Knight Rises making over $1 billion doesn't say anything about Avengers Endgame or anything going on with that. It could have been from Avengers 1 making $1 billion that those movies were also inflated because great superhero films were coming out, you know what I mean? But I don't know. Some people say it's superhero fatigue. I don't know if it's just movie theater fatigue or world fatigue or because of streaming platforms why this is happening, but I don't know if we'll ever see a movie like this or a superhero movie make $1 billion again, you know, like. But, you know, Superman in Fantastic Four coming out around the same exact time, I'm pretty sure Superman made more than Fantastic Four, so, you know, at least that says something, right? Like, the 2 competing movies at the time, DC has a higher grossing movie than a Marvel film. When's the last time that happened? Maybe never, you know, like, if there was a Marvel movie and a DC movie in theaters at the exact same time, I would almost venture to say the Marvel one made more money almost every time. Comment below if you know any specific examples where that could be wrong, where DC made more money than Marvel, but I don't know. My gut's telling me that Marvel, for a long time, has been successful in making a ton of movies, and this list only has 10, and like, you know, I don't know. I feel like Marvel has over $10 billion movies, or, you know, whatever their top 11 grossing movies for Marvel are, I guarantee they're more than this, you know what I mean? Let's just put it at that. But moving on from the gross in the money of DC and to something that DC wants them to make money in the future, and that would be DC's Clayface movie that's in the works right now and has begun production and filming. I don't know if it's in London or Amsterdam or something like that, maybe London. But Tom Rhys-Harries is going to be playing Clayface. I don't know if it's Basil Carlo or something like that is the name of the character. But you can see him here with the blonde hair, and that's maybe how the character is going to look at first. And then you can see him here where he's all like bloody and his face is, you know, got wrappings on it and he's got transfigured. So maybe this is him just became the Clayface, or he had some type of facial reconstruction surgery and it didn't go well and there's blood all over him and shit. But I don't know. This is going to be like a body horror movie and a DC character like Clayface getting his own shine. I don't know. I'm going to be interested to see what comes out of that, especially with the person that wrote the script, Mike Flanagan, who does great work, you know. I think that's going to be very good. Speaking of something else that has been very good so far, has been Peacemaker Season 2 through 2 episodes. But if you guys can see in the background here, I got some Hot Toys figures, and I do Hot Toys unboxings every weekend. And Hot Toys just recently announced that Peacemaker Season 2 will be getting a Season 2, you know, 2.0 Peacemaker figure. And this time they listened to our complaints and they gave us the John Cena head sculpt that they didn't give us the first time around. Also in Season 1, John Cena makes a joke that like, can I get a jetpack? And then in Season 2, we see that a alternate universe Peacemaker has a jetpack. So we will be getting a Peacemaker figure with a jetpack with the head sculpt, you know. It's just so funny. And then they, you know, they tease this and then they put out more images You can see that he comes with, you know, pretty much the same stuff as the original, but he comes with the wrist spikes that this new Peacemaker had. He comes with the jetpack. He comes with the John Cena head sculpt, so that's very cool. I probably will get this just for the John Cena head sculpt, to be real. But you can also see in this image here that the head sculpt looks great, but he's also holding the pistol. So in the original one, they didn't let you take the pistol out of the holster. So this time it looks like we're getting a head sculpt, a jetpack, spiked wrists, and you can take out the guns out of the holster. But, I mean, it does look like, you know, maybe John Cena is 10 years older. Like, his face just looks really aged and wrinkled, and I don't know, maybe I'm just gonna have to take a closer look at John Cena's face and be like, is it really this aged? But I don't know, comment below. I mean, his hair looks fine, but the actual face itself, like, how old is John Cena? He's gotta be, what, 50, maybe 40, late 40s, early 50s? This face to me looks like John Cena if he was like 60. You know, like, still in good shape, but a little older and a little more wrinkly than he was in his younger days, you know what I mean? But still a great looking head sculpt. Tons of detail. It does look like an alive human. It doesn't look like this wax figure, you know? So I can't wait to see this figure in person, but you can see those those like wrist hand spikes that I was talking about as well. Those are going to be a new accessory, but I'm wondering if this second version of Peacemaker will come with some more different Beacon of Freedoms, because that's like my one complaint at the moment, is that it looks like it comes with the same mouth plate, you know, with the closed mouth and then the open mouth with the attachable tongue, and then it comes with the normal helmet and then the Sonic Boom helmet. What about the Activate Magic Stars helmet that this other Peacemaker had? You know, like, if you want to have your original Peacemaker fighting the other alternate universe Peacemaker with the jetpack, with the wrist spikes, this isn't the helmet he was wearing. So this is technically inaccurate, you know, but I haven't seen the rest of the season, so maybe this is our Peacemaker and he just stole the tech from the other Peacemaker, stole the jetpack, stole the wrist spikes, and then he just goes back to wearing his, you know, original Beacon of Freedom. I don't know, that could be a thing as well, but I think they should have thrown in the other helmet, you know, the Activate Magic Stars helmet, or even just throw in other helmets in general, you know, to leave it up to us which helmet we want to use, or we can swap them out, you know. I think there should be more than two, and there should not be the same exact two from the first issue, you know what I mean? But moving on from Hot Toys into some Star Wars stuff, and just recently, the full cast and first exclusive image for Shawn Levy's Star Wars movie titled Star Wars Starfighter, starring Ryan Gosling and a young boy named Flynn Gray. And there was the first image released of them on this, like, speeder, kind of like, you know, the land speeder, the Luke's land speeder from the original Star Wars. But, you know, you could see this, like, speeder, and then it looks like an all black and white photo, Ryan Gosling sitting there next to this kid. Rumors synopsis for this movie has been that, like, he's the uncle to this boy, and they're going across the galaxy trying to do something, you know, a heist of some sorts, or maybe, like, get something back, or retrieve something, or get home, something like that. But I believe this is uncle and nephew type thing, not like older brother, younger brother, or father, son, you know, so I think it's going to be more of a nephew, you know, uncle relationship throughout this movie. But Ryan Gosling's the uncle. That's kind of cool. And it looks like he's maybe like a outlaw bounty hunter type of guy, you know, kind of like a Han Solo type with that jacket. But they very cleverly made this black and white, so you can't see exactly what's going on here. You can't see the color that the speeder is. You can't see the color of the outfits. You can't see the color of the walls. Although I'm sure it might be, you know, mostly black and whites in the colors anyways, I'm thinking that this is going to be a very, very interesting movie, and I'm very excited to see what Shawn Levy's Star Wars movie is looking like. And I'm just excited to have more Star Wars films in the works, and being able to go see Star Wars films in the movies again will be so fun. And this will be coming to theaters May 28th, 2027. But the expanded cast that we learned about is also including Matt Smith, who's going to be some type of villain, along with Mia Goth, which, so I think, like, they're going to be dual villain types with, like, super pasty white skin, but, like, the dark side. And then there's going to be Aaron Pierre, Amy Adams, Simon Bird, Jamel Westman, and Daniel Ings. Daniel Ings, I think I know from the Netflix Gentleman series, and he plays like a psycho in that series. But, you know, very interesting, you know, just the cast. Aaron Pierre, Amy Adams, I didn't know they were going to be in this Star Wars movie as well. So Aaron Pierre, ever since Rebel Ridge, he's now gotten the Lanterns, you know, so he's going to be in the DC as Jon Stewart, Green Lantern, and now he's going to be in Star Wars. What a career for this guy. And he's dating Deanna Taylor, so freaking shout on him. And Amy Adams is in there. And rumor has it that Amy Adams is the mother to the child that's with Ryan Gosling. So he would be, or she would be Ryan Gosling's sister. And then the mom to Flynn Gray's character. So like, you know, the mom, sister to make Ryan Gosling the uncle. Very interesting though. So, you know, we don't know of too much Star Wars, what's coming forward. So some of these have question marks on them because those are speculating that those could be what's coming next. But as far as stuff that we do know is coming, we have Star Wars Vision Season 3 coming October 29th, 2025. May of 2026, we have The Mandalorian and Grogu, which I can't wait to feast my eyes on that movie, not a season. I believe this was like season 4 of Mandalorian that they turned into a movie, which is very cool. And then that's probably going to tie in some way, shape, or form into Ahsoka and Ahsoka Season 2, which should be coming in 2026, as well as a animated series called Maul, Shadow Lord. So Maul's going to be getting his own TV show, with, I believe, Sam Witwer coming back to voice that character and be a part of that show. Very cool. And then we have May of 2027, Star Wars Starfighter, Shawn Levy's movie we were just talking about. As well as a Jedi Prime movie. I'm not sure what that's about. Maybe that's like the original Jedi movie, like the James Mangold movie that he wants to make, where it's like the origins of the Jedi. So I think James Mangold is still working on a Star Wars film. I'm not sure if that is what Jedi Prime is. There's still a Taika Waititi Star Wars movie in the works. There's also a Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron movie that was rumored to have been canceled many years ago and is still somehow fighting and clawing for life. So a potential Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron movie will eventually come. Also more rumored than certain is the Lando movie that's been in the works for many years, with Donald Glover coming back from Solo to reprise his role as Lando Calrissian. And, you know, he seems to be maybe a, like, co-writer on that script, so maybe a Lando solo film coming eventually. We also know of the Rey Skywalker, you know, trilogy movie, or, you know, whatever, sequel movie to her trilogy that's going to be coming out, starring Daisy Ridley as Rey coming back. But the one I'm most interested in is Dave Filoni's film that's probably going to be like a culmination of Mandalorian, Ahsoka Season 2, and then end up in a movie which will be almost Ahsoka Season 3, but will probably also tie in whatever happened in Mandalorian and Grogu. And that film will be called Heir to the Empire, and have Thrawn as our big, you know, Darth Vader, Palpatine, big bad type. And I think that will be very interesting, that we're heading back towards a huge Star Wars movie like that. And to me, that will almost be like an Avengers type of Star Wars movie, where it seems like you could pull the Mandalorian, the Ahsokas, even the Luke Skywalker if you want to, the Rey, you know, you could pull from whatever the fuck you want, you know, pull the Rebels, you know, and Zeb and all of them, bring the Ghost, you know, and bring all of the people from Star Wars that you want to bring from this time frame and have them fight. And if you don't want to have them, you don't need to, but it just feels like a really rich time in Star Wars, that they could bring in people, bring in older people, bring in younger people, you know, bring in new people. Like the Star Wars Starfighter could get tied into this, you know. Like, I'm very excited for the future of Star Wars. But comment below what you're most excited for, and what movie you think might get canceled, what you think will get made, and which of these upcoming Star Wars slate and things that are potentially coming out, what are you most excited for or most curious to see, and if it ever comes to fruition. But just to talk a little bit more about Destination 23 and the D23 conference expo thing that they had, they were talking about, you know, Marvel and a bunch of things and Pixar, and apparently the Pixar movie slate for the next couple years, 2026, the movie Hoppers will be coming out. I could have sworn that Hoppers already came out a couple years ago, but apparently I was wrong. Hoppers comes out in 2026. Toy Story 5 also comes out, it looks like, in 2026. A movie called Gato. Seems like maybe the O has some cat whiskers and like cat ears on it, so maybe Gato is a Kato. And that's coming 2027. Also in 2027, or maybe in 2028 and beyond, it says we're going to be getting an Incredibles 3, which is incredible, and a Coco 2, which Incredibles and Coco have been two of the most successful Pixar movies, no? But Incredibles coming back for a third film, like, that's awesome. But comment below. I mean, I do movie reviews on the channel. Should I go back through a bunch of Pixar movies? I always think it's a little bit weird. Like, I don't have kids, so like I'm just sitting down watching a bunch of these Pixar movies alone. It's like, I feel like I should go with, you know, like maybe my buddy Langone and his daughter to the theaters to see these new Pixar films. You know, like we saw Lilo and Stitch and Elio came out earlier this year. We saw those movies, but like I didn't go alone. Like a 20-something-year-old lone man in this child's theater. I don't know if that's the look or the vibe, you know? But what else is not the look or the vibe? Marvel, I don't know why you did this, but if you don't know, last week we were talking about a little bit in that Disney Plus put out this Thunderbolts, or also New Avengers poster for them getting dropped on Disney Plus, and they had taken the poster and they had taken the knives and the guns out of the poster and edited some things out from a previously used poster. They did the same thing here with this Thunderbolts, the New Avengers with the Disney Plus logo, you know, with Bucky stand in the middle with, you know, all of them just kind of standing there, and then Red Guardian's biting the knife. This is from a real 3D poster, and they cut out Taskmaster, they cut out Bob, and then they just kind of reframed everybody so that Yelena's a little lower and Bucky's more in the middle and Walker's more behind friggin' Yelena, and, you know, they're all a little bit tighter and shorter. But like, this is literally just this poster, this real 3D poster that they took, and they were like, oh, okay, we'll do this. Like, you didn't have any other photography from the movie from Marvel themselves that they could have used as a poster for this? Like, or why not just use the original poster? Why have to change it and edit it into this weird thing from a different poster? Like, I'm not sure why they did shit like that. But they're not making entirely bad decisions, because currently right now we know Spider-Man Brand New Day is filming, although they just stopped filming in Glasgow, so we haven't been getting set shots from the streets on them filming anymore. But we did just learn from Jackie Chan himself that Jackie Chan says his stunt team is working on Spider-Man Brand New Day. And he said, I went to London for a meeting and visited the set. My Jackie Chan stunt team was busy filming Spider-Man, and I was their action director. So it seems like Jackie Chan has been an action stunt team director for his stunt team on Spider-Man Brand New Day, which I believe the same stunt team also worked on Shang-Chi. So I'm hoping that they go right into Shang-Chi 2 after this. But how cool that Jackie Chan is working on a Spider-Man movie, and how great that action's gonna look. You know, like, we haven't had funny action, hand, you know, fist punching Spider-Man action maybe ever. I don't know, I've said for a while now, with Dustin Daniel Cretton as the Spider-Man Brand New Day director, why not have this Peter Parker Spider-Man that nobody knows meet a Shang-Chi, and then, you know, Shang-Chi teaches them hand-to-hand fighting combat, so then our Spider-Man doesn't have to rely on his spider sense and his webs. He can rely on the fists a little bit, you know, and he can defend himself in a fight that's not just dealing with his, like, spider strength that he got from the spider bite, you know, like, because that's kind of how the hand-to-hand fight felt against Norman Osborn. It was a little sloppy, and both of them were a little bit sloppy, because he's just got the Green Goblin serum running through his body, making him strong, and he's just got the Spider-Man spider bite, making his spider senses strong, you know, so, like, are they both good fighters and trained? I don't think so. But as Shang-Chi, absolutely. He's about as proficient a hand-to-hand combat artist could get in the MCU at the current moment. I mean, who would be better than him? I don't know. Hawkeye maybe, but he's, you know, beat up. He's older, you know. Shang-Chi's young. He's maybe around Tom Holland's age. I think that would be a great thing to put into this movie. And also have, like, Spider-Man with another character that we wouldn't maybe expect him to be next to with a Shang-Chi, you know, and that also has precedent from the comics. So I would love to see Shang-Chi's action stunts be incorporated into Spider-Man in the coolest of ways. And just to end out today's show with some Avengers Doomsday news and this huge, like, maybe potential spoilery information we got here from, like, this character poster flag. And it seems like maybe it was like a flag or like some type of banner they had set up outside of like the Avengers Doomsday D23, wherever that conversation was being had type of thing. And, you know, I was like trying to make out this flag and I was like, oh man, I don't know if this is clear enough to make out everybody. And then, of course, the internet, the wonderful internet that it is, releases a perfectly clear image of this. So now I have this perfectly clear image where I can point out things, and you can see Dr. Doom sitting in this like Doom chair, almost like God Emperor Doom on the right there, with Goliath above him. And then within this like triangle of the threads or stories or whatever you want to call them, that God of Stories Loki at the end of Loki, his series, season 2, he's holding, like with his big crown and the same outfit from that series, he's holding the green, you know, threads of time that he was holding together. And behind him you can see, you know, Sam Wilson's Captain America, Gambit, The Thing, Magneto, Bucky, Red Guardian, Yelena, that might be Sentry Bob, Namor, Professor X. Flying up top, you got, I think, Falcon and Human Torch. Shuri's in there, Shang-Chi's in there, Nightcrawler's in there, Sue Storm, Mrs. Fantastic's in there, you got Winston Duke's M'Baku, you got Ghost, you got Beast, you got Cyclops, you got Mystique, you got Mr. Fantastic's stretchy arms and being like tied in a knot and then like also touching his waist. And then you got, on either side of him, you got Thor, which kind of looks like maybe Thor Love and Thunder Thor. And then I was like, oh my god, is that Captain America? But no, I think that's John Walker. Our right, Pedro's over his left shoulder. That's, I think, John Walker right in front of Sam Wilson's Captain America. But like, what an interesting crew. And I believe those are all the names that we saw on the chairs from that one, you know, cast releasing of the chairs that Marvel did. But it's just weird to see all of them next to each other, right? Like we like, even with the chairs, we knew they were going to be there. But, you know, it's crazy to have all of these people on a poster across from Doom. Like, so now it's making me think, who is on Doom's side, right? Like, and is the TVA, I mean, I doubt Kang's gonna be there. You know, they kind of did all of this to replace Kang, but like, why is Goliath behind him? Are they just going to replace, you know, Kang and Kang the Conqueror with God Emperor Doom type of thing? They could, I guess. But I don't know, man. I don't know at all. But I'm thinking this can't be, I mean, although this is a ton of characters, this can't be it, right? There's got to be Hulk there. There's got to be Spider-Man there. There's got to be quite a few other characters. I mean, Wolverine. I mean, Deadpool. I mean, Halle Berry Storm, right? Like, there's quite a few characters that I would be expecting to see here. You know, even with some of, like, you know, like Cyclops, Mystique, Beast is there, Magneto, Professor X. Why not Halle Berry Storm? Why not Colossus? Why not, you know, Kitty Pryde? Why not these other X-Men that we saw? You know, Bobby Drake, Iceman. Why not these other people that we've seen from these movies? Why only the select few that they chose? And then why the new Avengers? Why the Wakandans? Like, why throw in M'Baku and Shuri? Like, you know, from Wakanda Forever, it didn't necessarily seem like that post-credit scene from Wakanda Forever was tying into multiverse stuff in you know, going forward, but apparently they want Namor and the Wakandans to be there as well. So you have Wakandans, you have the Namor, you have the X-Men, you have the new Avengers, you have the Fantastic Four, and then you have maybe the Anarchy Avengers with Gambit in that Avengers group that we saw in Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't know. So you got X-Men, Fantastic Four, like the new Avengers, and then Sam Wilson's Avengers. So like it seems like this could be more like Infinity War, where the only reason they really lost in Infinity War was because the teams themselves were divided. Tony was in space, Cap was on the ground, and even at like the start of that movie, you know, like they're able to pick off Vision a little bit and wound Vision because Vision's off with Wanda and they're not with the crew. You know, like if they were all on Avengers Campus, they might have all been able to fight back immediately and it's not been such a problem. But because they were separate, they lost in that first movie and they had to come back in Endgame all together this time and Avengers Assemble to defeat Thanos, you know? Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Comment below your thoughts on Avengers Doomsday. Who else is going to be in this movie? Are we going to get more than what just the chair castings told us? I believe so. But also, who's going to be on Doomsday's team, right? Like, because it's not just going to be, you know, 100 Avengers versus one guy. Like Robert Downey's Doom needs to have some team members as well, right? Kind of like how Thanos had like the Cull Obsidian and Ebony Maw and the other dark bitch, you know, like he had some crew around him, even though they all get taken out one by one eventually. You need to, you know, take off the pawns to get to the king, right? You can't just have no pawns and it's just the king, you know, like, and I also don't picture them beating Doom this movie, you know, like I pictured Avengers Doomsday ending with Doom winning and it's devastating and we all walk out of there like, what the fuck? And then Avengers Secret Wars is where they have to really beat his ass or whatever is after this, you know? I still think there's a weird thing going on here where, you know, like they think Avengers Secret Wars is going to be coming out a year after this. That's insane. I don't even think this is going to be coming out when it says it's going to come out. Like, this definitely gets delayed. Lots of things coming up, lots of things we talked about today. Comment below what has you excited. What are you most anticipating going forward? Are you excited for Spider-Man Brand New Day with Jackie Chan, Avengers Doomsday? Seeing this cast together is quite exciting. Future Pixar stuff, future Star Wars stuff. Ice Age 6, Caught Stealing, a bunch of Rotten Tomatoes scores, a bunch of movie posters we talked about, Gen V. Comment below what are the types of things that you want to see me talk about in the future. What things are you excited about that we talked about today? And if you want to have any more conversations and chat more of the weekly nerdy news with me, you can follow me on my other social medias down below. Message me over there. Let's chat about some nerdy shit. Or you can message me in the comment section below. I answer all my comments. Thank you guys so much for coming on by, and if you made it this far and you would really like to support the channel, the best way to do that is liking this video, commenting down in the comment section below, subscribing if you haven't already, and make sure you hit that bell so you don't miss future Comically Boston Weekly Nerdy News podcasts every Monday, and you get the notifications when they come out. And once again, my name is Big Cam. Thank you guys so much. It really means the world to me that you stuck around this far, and I will see you gorgeous people in the next one. Peace.